Welcome back, friends. We are here together again today to continue on our deep dive through grades 3 through 6. All of the things that we want to develop in our students, the curriculum, where it takes your family, and the exciting things that are to come. Now, we finished part 1, which was just grade 3, because it's such a big and important year. Now we're going to go into grades 4 through 6 with Michelle. We're just going to continue that conversation, so we are glad that you're going to stay here with us today. We'll jump into our conversation.
Welcome to the Homeschool Journal, a show that unpacks the joys and journeys of the classical homeschool family. Here's your host, Carrie McGraw.
We're going to go to the 4th grade core curriculum. We now know what we've been working on, the skills that we want to see out of our 3rd graders. Take us into the 4th grade core curriculum.
Okay, for 4th grade literature, we'll start there. We're going to read Cricket in Times Square, Homer Price, The Blue Fairy Book, and Dangerous Journey. And there's not a big jump in literature between 3rd and 4th grade. The levels are pretty similar. The books are a little more challenging, but it's not a big jump. So 3rd and 4th grade are pretty close as far as that goes. Math, there's not going to be a big jump between math between 3rd and 4th grade. It's going to be practice of those 4 operations. Again, of course, that's going to be every grade through 6th grade. More practice of the 4 operations. And then Greek myths, we're going to finish that this year if you only did half of it the year before. But the classical composition composition will change from the all things fun and fascinating, that keyword outlining composition style to beginning classical composition. So we do fable stage, which is the first stage where the students learn the first 3 components of the 9 components of writing. So they get a lot of practice. They read a little fable, talk about it. They do a lot of vocabulary building, which is great at this age. But composition would be one. Science, they're going to do astronomy. Yay, so we did mammals last year, astronomy this year. Again, everything is nature related for 3rd through 6th, which is great. Students need to learn about the world around them. So science about the world around you, the world you can see and touch. And it's fantastic to go outside at night with your child in 4th grade and look up at the stars and they say, look.
Identify the constellations.
Yes, or to hear them rattle off the 15 brightest stars. I have a college age student who can still, I'll say, do you still know the 15 brightest stars? And he can rattle them off.
Oh, wow.
It's
I can't say that one.
Yeah. So that's I always like to share that. I don't know why.
Because you're a mom. Because you're a mom. And you did it.
I have 4 children that have been through that program and I still don't know them. Christian studies, we're going to finish Christian studies 1, which is those first 5 books of the Old Testament. And then English grammar recitation, we're going to cover a little bit more of those, basic English grammar skills with capitalization and punctuation. States and capitals we finish. And spelling is going to progress. Now, we didn't talk about spelling in 3rd grade, which is the traditional spelling 3. So it's that 3rd level of traditional spelling, which has quite a bit of phonics in it. So if your child still needed phonics,
it's still there.
They still have it in that program. Right. But in 4th grade, we're going to use spelling workout for now. And then we have timeline and then copybook. We have the actual copybook cursive.
So I think what's amazing about all of this is how the entire curriculum just flows together. What we're doing in our copybook cursive pulls out of, the other things from other subjects. We find that actually through 4th, 5th, and 6th. The timeline just pulls the rest, so much
Christian
of the subject
studies,
together. And that's why I said earlier, timeline's I think a really big, important project coming into 3rd grade. So these things, they just flow together so well. And if I can have an aside here just for a moment to talk about, that's what a good curriculum should do, is it's going to build on itself. It's going to stay comprehensive. It's going to have a trajectory that you can depend upon. And if our listeners want to read a really good article about that, I think it was written just in the spring of this year by Martin on what is a curriculum, and they can search for that on our website. But it's fantastic. And that's what is so beautiful about Memoria Press for me.
You have to know where you're going. And that's why our curriculum was developed from the top down, because Cheryl knew where what she wanted a student, a graduate to look like. And then we worked backwards.
Amazing.
And so, curriculum, people who choose their curriculum year to year, they just go subject wise for this year. Your curriculum will not have the cohesiveness it will if you're following a set curriculum that has that end in mind.
See, there's the word cohesive. That's the word. Okay. So what are we accomplishing developmentally in this fourth grade year?
Okay. So there's as we mentioned before, not a big jump between third and fourth grade typically. They have better fluency and expression when they're reading. So just from practice of reading orally, that's naturally going to get better and better. If you hear a third grader read, it's not much different than hearing a fourth grader read. There maybe be a little bit more expression, but if you hear a sixth grader read, their expression should be
considerably different.
Different. And they won't need shouldn't need as much help decoding words that they find in their...
I think that's the biggest leap in reading.
They can usually figure it out themselves with just very little help for you. Basically, the help that you give in fourth grade is maybe which syllable to stress. So they may decode it correctly, but they're not stressing the correct syllable. And so they'll need to hear it once or twice, and then they've got it.
Or making sure that they're pausing at punctuation correctly.
Oh, that's part of reading with expression.
That's right. That's right. And they are still developing that.
Right. And in math, they're going to be faster with their 4 operations. So as you are doing the daily speed drills or the weekly speed drills in fourth grade, their 4 operations will be faster. And we were talking about reading. Their expository reading should be more fluent even. So you should see an increased fluency in their reading between third and fourth, but not a dramatic. Don't look for anything dramatic. And we still put a lot of focus on memory work at this stage, but because they're sponges. So expanding their vocabulary is going to be kind of a switch that you begin to see between third and fourth and fifth, is that more focus should be put onto expanding their vocabularies.
Which the material naturally
It does it naturally. That's right.
And this is not something that you have to have. You have to add something in. You don't have to go find another workbook of some sort, on a homeschool website. Our material will naturally do this.
Right. So we had vocabulary that we covered in previous grades, small bits of vocabulary. But if you look at beginning in third grade and fourth grade, every subject that has a workbook has a vocabulary section.
Correct.
So we really are expanding vocabularies.
So one of the things, in talking about third grade so much, having so much emphasis on third grade, I want parents to hear, if you survive third grade, you're going to love fourth grade, because it really is it's just, you get a breather almost. You have put into play the format by which your student is going to learn. They're going to expect it in fourth grade. They're going to know the pattern for learning. They're still perfecting it, and we still have to heavily lead them through. But like you said, especially in the literature and in the math, there's not this big, huge jump. You're really just on a continuance of progress.
A slow incline. You're on that slow incline. And what you don't want to do is give them too much independence too early. So it is not the time to have them answer discussion or comprehension questions on their own.
No.
We are still not there. We still want to be having those lengthy talks about each question, and to be sure that we that we have all the information we need before they start giving you oral answers to those questions. But it's still very helpful to put those answers or phrases from those answers on the board and have them copy.
Anything else that we should be thinking of in fourth grade that we've not already talked about? I think this is a common year where homeschoolers jump into Memoria Press. I see a lot of transition into Memoria Press with fourth graders. Now, they probably have a second grader and a kindergartner at the same time, but this seems to be a really big transition year. So how do we help parents through that when they've not already been using Memoria Press?
Sure. It's never too late to jump in, is the first thing I would say. I would encourage you to go ahead and start, even if you are nervous or you think we can't start in the middle. you definitely can start.
Yes.
You can start anytime. But you do want to do some things so that your child will be successful. You want to make sure that they are able to not be discouraged. So one thing would be, I would start working on cursive. Mm-hmm. So you can't just jump into copybook at this stage. No. You need to start with New American Cursive Level 1, which can be found in the first grade program.
And even though it's young, at this age, they could move through it fairly quickly.
They could learn a couple letters a week rather than just focusing on one letter.
And I do think they'll find it to be just as fun. Honestly, I think at this age, they'll find it to be a little bit of a break from everything else.
So cursive, you're going to want to work on your cursive. You're going to want to start working on mastery of those 4 operations.
Right.
So if they had a gap in their addition or subtraction, which we
that's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon. It's really not. So start working on your addition and subtraction. A set of flashcards will help do the trick, and some speed drill practice. And
you can buy those individually. We can just, pick up parts from former grades.
Right. We can help you to find what, some speed drills and some flashcards that will help. And you can catch up with just not very much money
and one of the things that I do with families is I help them to schedule that in, and say, okay, you're going to be able to get this completed here. And then you get to move on to the next one. And then by this time you'll be caught up.
Right.
And in particular, this does happen very commonly in math.
And it doesn't mean that you have to wait and to start your 4th grade math until you have them. Until you have that done. We want you to work on it alongside your math program. So we don't want them to stop their math progression.
That's right. Right. So some other things that are very common as you jump into 4th grade, if you've not used Memoria Press before, is getting used to these guidebooks. Right. So, but I think that, again, because it is a dependable way of learning for the student, I think it's amazing how moms, I'll talk to them, like a month and a half later or so, and we love it. They completely understand what we're moving through, so the format itself lends itself to jumping in because it leans in the way of learning. That's what it does. It leads to learning.
It does. And I love that you called it a guidebook and not a workbook because a guidebook gives the connotation of it's helping to guide you where to go.
It is.
Rather than when you say workbook, it tends to lend itself to more of a busy work kind of thing or more of an independent thing than I think what we mean.
Sure.
You're still going to need to work with your child with the guidebooks, but it's going to help you to find your path.
So the ultimate story here is for a family jumping in, whether you're jumping in 4th grade, 5th grade, 3rd grade, whatever it is, we will work independently with our families. That's what you do it
to help place. To help
place you. And it may mean that there's some catching up to do in classical studies. That can happen because we do want to catch up in Greek myths. That's really important.
And we have a plan. It's not a new issue.
No, it's not at all. What you said earlier is just start. Just start. It can be done, and we will walk you through it.
Reading levels would be another thing that they may have an issue with. Is they may say, my child is not at the reading level of the books that are listed for the 3rd grade or for the 4th grade or for the 5th grade. And we can work with families too to help get the reading level where it needs to be. And it may not be that we get them to the reading level that we suggest at the grade level within 1 year. It may take you a year to work on that and catch up, but we do have plans because that's not an uncommon problem either.
And it's also too, we may reach back if you're coming in 4th grade, grab maybe 1 or 2 of the 3rd grade.
Or even the 2nd grade book
maybe
sometime.
Even 2nd grade, right? Pull them into the curriculum that we are customizing for our families. And then they will, like you said, it will catch up.
Right. Because we want the student to be successful. It's completing the books that we outline for a grade level is less important than your child being successful with the books that are scheduled for the program. So we do work very closely with families to make sure that they are perfectly placed so that their child will be successful.
Oh, beautifully said, Michelle. That's why she's here. Beautifully said. All right. So we have finished fourth grade.
Okay.
So let's move on to fifth, and let's go through our list of fifth grade. Our literature goes to Lassie, Heidi, and the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. This gets to be a really exciting
It's a fun year.
These are incredible, timeless pieces of literature.
They are. And students at this grade love these stories. And when they get to the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, they feel so grown up.
Absolutely. And these are the ones, here's what's amazing about our literature is that children remember these for the rest of their lives. Not just because of the beautiful work of literature that they are, but again, going back to the guidebooks, because of how they were guided through the work. Coming off of literature, we're going into math. Okay. And that's just, grade 5 math. We are taking a step in Latin, though.
We are. We do step from, it's still an introductory course.
It is.
And it's an introductory course for an older student. Right. I wouldn't suggest that you start your fifth grader in Prima.
Oh, no.
So it's still an introductory course, which is great because that means we had an introductory course for second grade and with Prima, and Prima could be used in second grade or third grade. We have an introductory course with Latina, which could be done at third grade or fourth grade. Some people do use it for fifth. We don't really recommend that, but they could.
Can.
Depends on where you are.
That's right.
In life.
It depends upon also the other skills of the student.
That's correct.
Well.
The reading level is where we start you in Latin depends on reading level too. But then first form is also an introductory course. So really, if you're starting anywhere between second grade and fifth grade, you're fine with Latin. We have a course for you.
It's ready to go.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Oh, the other thing I think that we introduced in this year is Lingua Angelica, which are the songs, the hymns, and the prayers. And I absolutely love it because not only are you, if you've already had Latin, you've done Latina, let's say, you come into this year of doing Lingua Angelica and it just makes it come a little bit more alive.
It does.
Makes it a little bit more part of, especially for, those of us who are churchgoers, this is part of our prayer life. And if you are starting in first form, it gives you that vision of this is still a living language in many regards. We can have a whole, we have had an episode actually in season 1 with Tanya about, why study Latin. But I love Lingua Angelica.
And if you call Memoria Press and are put on hold for any reason, hopefully you're not ever put on hold. But if you ever are, you'll hear Lingua Angelica being played.
That's right.
And sometimes I have called in when I've been working off site and a song comes on that I remember my kids singing, and I will be singing along, and then someone will say, "Hello."
Oh, it's just Michelle.
Don't worry. I'm just singing some Dona Nobis.
Yes.
Pacem.
So Famous Men of Rome.
Famous Men of Rome. So classical studies switches from Delaire's Greek Myths to the Famous Men series. So there's many more to come in that. Famous Men series starts, and Famous Men of Rome is a great place to start.
Awesome, right? So, but we are also stepping up in classical composition.
We
are to the narrative stage,
which is very similar to the fable stage. And again, we don't suggest you jump in with narrative. We will help to place you there. We can do a combined level. We really, it's more of a personal. We would work with you on that. But narrative stage takes the 3 components of the 9. We learned 3 in fable. It teaches the rest of the components of the 9 components of writing.
Important stage.
Right.
But the Progym, I'm going to have to call that short because
Progymnasmata.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It is a program that I want to tell parents, please read the beginning of our fable, our narrative, the teacher guidelines in there. Please read the history of the Progym. There is a richness to this that has been hidden. Should not have been. We are unhiding it.
That's right. We are revealing
it. Thank you. It is absolutely beautiful. It is so purposeful and so successful. Again, that's another whole podcast or a set of videos actually that we have on our YouTube channel. So, all right, let's talk. We stay in the natural world with science.
Insects.
Oh, it's so fun.
And you'll think, my daughter, my sweet little girl won't want to do insects.
Oh, yes,
Let me tell you, my sweet little girl girl said that too. And then by the end, she had captured things in jars that I was afraid of. So it is a great year. They love the insect study. Even if they're trepidatious at first, by the end, they love this study.
But I love that we stay in the natural world here. Again, you had made that point earlier. It's very important in this stage of learning, in the grammar stage of learning. So what are we doing in cursive?
Cursive, we're just practicing.
Right.
Practice.
And we've got another copybook that is that's the cursive 3, right? That's scripture. So again, using portions of the curriculum for practice. So tell me what's next.
Christian studies, we step up. We're still in the Old Testament.
But we're finishing
the Old Testament.
Right.
So we're doing the part of the Old Testament that is not as students aren't really exposed as much to that part of the Old Testament. They know the first 5 books. They know Noah and Moses and all of that and creation, but the rest of the Old Testament is covered. So in 3rd grade, we started with the complete study of the Bible again. In K-2, we went through the whole Bible. So in 3rd grade, we started another trek through the whole Bible again. So by the time students reach middle school, they will have been through the Bible, the complete Bible, 3 times. Yeah, which is pretty phenomenal because,
it really is.
And if you think about it, a middle schooler, they're going to be starting to wrestle with some discussions about the Bible. And if they don't know the Bible, they can't really have those discussions. So we really teach the Bible. And in 5th grade, we're going to be doing the rest of the Old Testament.
Okay. We continue in English grammar recitation. This goes to level 2.
It does.
And we also have some language arts exercises that can go along with this.
We do.
Right?
We do have extra language arts that's hard to say, language arts practices. But again, English grammar recitation is the program that needs to be coupled with Latin. So we'll talk Latin, I guess, next. But so if you're not using our Latin, please don't think you can jump in with EGR level 2 and be very successful.
So talk Latin.
So first form, we are jumping into first form, and our form series begins.
Which we said, we've talked about that, but it is important that we note that it does couple and pair with
English grammar,
the grammar, right?
Because that's what's helping to teach our grammar is the Latin. It's one of the many reasons we study Latin. But,
absolutely.
So first form, and like we talked about before, it's introductory, but it plugs in at this grade level.
That's right. Geography. We start a really formal study of geography.
We do. We will review the states and capitals one more time quickly, but it'll be quickly, region by region. And really, it is a review. We'll go through that, but then we start our world geography study. Right. So we start with Geography 1, which is part of the world.
Right, which is Middle East, North Africa,
Europe.
And like you said, we'll do some U.S. review. Now, we also have some supplemental reading in American history.
We do.
It is supplemental. I have to say that. But I do have a lot of parents ask, well, what about U.S. history at this age? And we have the option for that. And it is beautifully done. Again, it's literature. It's reading based.
Well, with classical, one thing about classical education is that a lot of these subjects will be woven into other subjects. So there's a lot of cross teaching. So we never studied U.S. history as a subject in the primary grades, but yet it was infused in the enrichment program. And there were references to it and places where we discussed things in that. So, most of the students leaving primary had a good base knowledge of U.S. history, but they never really had a U.S. history class.
Right.
The same would be said for 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. We don't really have a U.S. history class, but it's infused in some of the other things. But it's infused in these American history readers that we have available, where they read a biography of Benjamin Franklin or Laura Ingalls Wilder or George Washington. And then we have a set of discussion questions that give you the starters for these discussions about American history. And students still learn very well through discussion and observation.
Yes, they do.
So they don't always have to read a text.
Right. At this stage.
It's
coming.
It is coming. But
not now.
But these American history biographies are great to give your child something good to read in their spare time, and you want to be cultivating a reader. So if you're not providing them something good to read, they're going to find something to read that maybe isn't so good. You have to make a time for this too, because if the only reading that they're doing on their own outside of school is reading text or reading snippets on their phone.
Oh, if we have a 5th grader with a phone, that's another conversation.
Okay. We may have to have a podcast at some point.
We may have to have a podcast on that one. Okay.
So spelling.
Yes.
Spelling continues. It's not going to be a big jump.
No, it's not. Right.
But
we're just
it is a subject you need to do
at this age.
Correct.
Absolutely. So we do see a little bit of increased independent work and responsibility at this stage.
You do.
But again,
But they're not completely independent.
No.
They're still not ready to just be set loose to regulate their day.
No.
They still need oversight. They still need to be checked. Students at this age will get away with what you let them get away with. So if you never check their workbook for neatness or correctness, guess what? Their workbook won't be neat
or correct.
That's right. So you do have to still have some oversight over what they're doing and checking in on them and being sure that you set that expectation high.
And again, you're balancing multiple children in most instances.
And sometimes your oldest is 5th grade. And so you expect to have more independence with them. And that's true. You can have more independence with them. But they do still need some of your time.
Heavy oversight. And that'll hold true for 6th grade as well, really. But we will get into that one. So we are seeing, as far as academically, some of these skills that our comprehension becomes more abstract.
A little bit more abstract. So their answers should be well constructed and have proper punctuation and capitalization, but they should be able to take a little bit more from the discussions you have with them about these questions and be able to get more of that onto their paper. Now, they still may need some phrases and some names and things on the board, because we still do want correct spelling.
Yes,
and all of that. So you still will be utilizing that board, but you should be able to cover more of those questions before they are expected to do their writing in their book.
Well, and then, their answers, I think I said this earlier, use this word, become more robust.
They do.
It's not just a little bit of a robot answer in that I'm just giving you the one thing that this question
details.
Thank you. Details start to come in their answers and what we want to see. And if they aren't, then Mom, I would say, sit and ask for that, make that next question. Okay. Ask for a little bit more detail before you write that answer on the board. And of course, our teacher guides will give them a lot
It'll
of
help to walk
detail,
you through that.
Right.
Right. But also the teacher guide will have a lot of detail, but please remember that those teacher's guides are just guides. So the answers that are in those teacher guides are not exactly what your student workbook should look like.
No.
So we give all the information that we can to that question, but your student's answer may just be a portion of that. We still expect that all facets of the question are answered, because that's another thing. Some of the questions may have more than one question in it. So it may be a multi-question question. Does that make sense? A multi-question question?
Right. But that's what's coming. Anyway,
Right.
I mean, that's what they should see in the progression of our guidebooks and of the comprehension questions. Okay. So let's jump to 6th grade.
We're there.
We are there. We're going to round out our grammar school years. And what do we have?
Can I just say that I love 6th grade because the literature and the classical studies are all the same time period. It doesn't happen in every grade level. We certainly don't want to study all Roman stuff in 4th grade. We certainly don't. What a nice thing to have our literature selections of Adam of the Road, King Arthur, Robin Hood, Door in the Wall, all Middle Ages, coincide with our classical studies.
Men of the Middle
Ages. It's just a nice time period, a lovely grade level.
And so, like you said, Adam of the Road, King Arthur, Robin Hood, and Door on the Wall. Again, another set of incredible pieces of literature. Math. What's happening in math in grade 6?
It steps up in grade 6. It's not a big step, but the students have a good hold on their multiplication and division. So so we are working with factoring and
a lot more with fractions. More word problems. Really.
More word problems. Right. So more of everything, I think, because we're really preparing them to move and transition from concrete mathematics in 6th grade to abstract in 7th grade, which means those addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division facts need to be completely automatic. Absolutely. They need to be automatic and accurate. So continued work with speed drills in this age is imperative.
It is there.
It is imperative.
It should be there. And it is, right.
Yes. A student that's doing pre-algebra does not have any extra brain. There's a little bit of your brain that is devoted to learning something new. And if you have to take a piece of that and devote it to remembering what is 6 times 6, then you have less that's able to digest that abstract thought.
That's right.
Yes. And so those facts have to be automatic at this stage by the end of the year. You have a year to get it done.
Okay. So what's next in our list of curriculum for 6th grade?
For 6th grade, we have Latin moves from 1st form to 2nd form, a jump up. If you are new to MP in 6th grade, that's great. You can start at 6th grade, but we're not going to start you in 2nd form.
No.
We're going to start you back in that first form level Latin.
And definitely that's a good place to start for that age of student.
It's a perfect place to start. It is. So we're going to do, but for everyone else, we're going to do 2nd form. We're going to move classical composition. Remember, we did those 9 components. Yep. We are moving to Crea Maxim, which in composition, which takes a saying either by a known author or an unknown author, and then the student is going to rewrite that saying, and then they're going to make analogies. It's a lovely program.
It is.
But it is a little bit more composition. And again, do we want you to start your child with Crea Maxim? No. They need to know those 9 components of writing because they're going to be using those 9 components to give examples for those maxims, those sayings.
Okay.
So we will help, and again, we can help you to place your child with classical comp at this level. In science, we're going to finish. We're not finished yet, but we're going to be doing the birds.
We're still in natural history,
but
we do transition into the history of medicine.
We do by the end of the year. So we study the birds for the first part of the year, which is great because it's when you drive down the road with your child and they point out the window, look, there's an oriole or whatever the bird is, or they can identify all the birds that come to your bird feeder, or they hear a song and they know which bird is singing.
Making science real life, that which is around wonderful. You every day, appreciating God's creation that he places with us and not letting it just pass you by. That's the really beautiful thing that I see come out of our science once you get through that grade 6 is the little parts of creation that they see every day are not passed by. They are not taken for granted at this point in time because they have spent time in appreciation and knowledge of all of these things. So in our natural world.
And we don't want our students to graduate 6th grade and be ignorant of the world around them. We want them to be able to recognize and name
trees,
bugs they see,
bugs
or
birds
or the stars. So birds is a great study, but they get to end the year with the history of medicine, which is kind of gross, but the kids love it.
They do.
There is some blood and guts in it. I don't want to scare you away, but it's a fun.
But it's also a shift and fascinating.
That's right.
It really does intrigue them and piques their interest.
It does. It does.
Okay, so we have Christian Studies 3. This time we're in New Testament.
We're finishing up that trek through the Bible, that second trek. And so we do the New Testament this year.
And we're still doing a little bit of cursive.
They still are practicing cursive, not only in their workbooks, but also as an actual practice where all they do is focus on copying something in cursive, whether it's a poem or a Bible verse or something from one of their other subjects, but cursive practice.
Okay. And spelling and timeline are still there.
Are continuing on.
That's right. We still have, but English grammar recitation.
It steps up a little bit in English grammar recitation. So it gets harder as the Latin gets harder.
Right.
So Which is by design.
It just is what it is.
You've
got a sixth grader now, folks. I mean,
it is. So
and just wait. It's all okay.
And you'll remember it fast enough as you work through it with them. It will come back.
That's right. So then we also have geography.
Geography too. So we did the first part of the world last year, and this year we're doing the second part of the world, or the rest of the world, not the second part, but the rest of the world.
The rest of Africa, Asia, Oceania, and the Americas.
The Americas. Correct.
Right. So we do cover a lot of ground in geography.
We do.
In those 2 years in particular. So let's really talk about that sixth grader as we finish out our conversation here. What are we seeing with our sixth grader? What is developmentally important here in sixth grade?
Well, developmentally, they are still in need of oversight and high expectations. So if you set the goal low for your sixth grader, that's where they're going to meet.
Where they're going to meet.
You really need to set that expectation a little bit higher for them, and then encourage them and help them to meet that expectation. But they will be more independent at this age. They can do some things to help in your homeschool family. If you have more than one student, they can help listen to younger readers. They can spend a longer period of time working independently, though, as I said before, you'll need to work with them before they do that independent work. Their comprehension question answers, while they can be more independent on those, they still need that discussion with you. They will still need on the board some phrases and names written down to help them remember, kind of bring back the discussion, if you will. And then you'll still need to check their work to make sure that they wrote the answer correctly, because as they're getting more independent, you can have that conversation, you can have the keywords and the names, but if they're not encoding that correctly, then that means that when they are called upon to study independently from their study guide, which is what that guide is, that's what they're studying from. If their study guide is incorrect, then they're studying incorrectly. And do a check. Do a check every so often to make sure that it's neat. Give them a weekly.
But that goes back to the goals that you set. And at this age, we should be able to vocalize, write out the goals for our students. At this point in time, my students, we're working with planners, and they are directing a good portion of whether they're directing their day, not so much, but what they're doing is they know what needs to be accomplished in any one day or week, what they are responsible for. And are we still in oversight, and are we still the movers of all of this trajectory? Yes, as teachers, but they are part of the accountability and the responsibility of this process. And that's where we're developing that student and that level of responsibility.
And by sixth grade, they should be able to see a list of tasks. Then they should know what part of their day it can be independent and what part of their day they need mom for. And they should still be reading orally some. Now, do they need to read the whole chapter of their whole section to you? They can read a section to you out loud, and then part of it read silently, but they still need that practice of orally reading.
That's right, because that's still a skill.
It is.
That's still a skill that we're still actually working on in sixth grade. Okay. What you had mentioned something really good prior to us starting here about what to do after sixth grade, something really important at the end of sixth grade.
Right. At the end of sixth grade.
Not something that we have.
It's not something that we have a program. We're not trying to sell you on anything, but when your child leaves sixth grade over that summer before seventh grade, they need to learn how to type. They need to learn the skill of typing. And there are a lot of free programs out there. I loved Mavis Beacon, but there are a lot of free programs that you can find anywhere that will teach keyboarding. And so your child does need to learn keyboarding. They don't need you to devote an hour a day to keyboarding. It's not something that you need to spend an inordinate amount of time on, but your child does need some kind of keyboarding practice before seventh grade, because they'll begin typing papers in seventh grade.
Right.
And need that skill. They can't two-finger those.
Or thumb.
Yeah, they need to learn how to type correctly.
So I think the culmination of this, Michelle, for me, is for our families to see the trajectory of our curriculum, how they can fit inside of that. If things are not exactly where they need to be with their student, or they're coming in late. This is not just a put together list of subjects where we dabble here and there. We are going to study deep in all the things that we do, and we're going to develop deep skills. And we're going to develop the skills of a student and what they need to move on. What they need for a lifetime, the things that they do and set up in the grammar school ages are very important, but it is naturally within our program, right? So, but much of this is cultivated by the parent, but we want to lead them there. In Memoria Press, we want to lead them there.
We do. And no matter where they are on the spectrum of 3rd to 6th grade, don't feel like that you've already missed the boat and that it's too late for you, because you can start at any of these grade levels, and there's somebody here that can help to place you and your student
absolutely
where you are.
I think that's a hallmark of who we are. We care and we want to work with all of our families. Michelle, thank you for spending this time with me today.
Welcome.
You're so fun to be with. Perfect person to share this with. Okay.
It has been a treat.
Thanks for joining us today. If you liked our episode, click the thumbs up button below or leave a comment to let us know what you thought. It always helps us to know if we've helped you. You can also click the bell icon and subscribe to the show so that you can stay in touch. Then I'd love for you to share it with a friend. We have many resources here on this channel, so I hope you'll check those out too. I'm Carrie McGraw. Thanks for listening today, and I'll see you next time.